Welcome to the Scrumptious Woman. Today I have with me this woman that is absolutely incredible on paper, and I can't wait for you to see and actually hear who she is, Sylvia Solit. When I read shaman, mystic, money, sex, like everything, just like all the power, right? You're talking about all the kind of stuff that energetically is not only important, but it's like really touches us deep in our root center.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I could just tell by the way you introduced me that you really get it, that to be a scrumptious woman is, wait a second, like we want all the things, not some of the things, we want all the things. And we want to feel those things in our body because that's our birthright, right? To feel this like profound pleasure and connection to everything through the body. So I'm Sylvia Solit. Thank you for having me today. And as you mentioned, I have training as a shaman, which means that I have training in working with plant medicines as a facilitator, but I'm also trained as an investor working in finance. I hold my CFA charter and I have been CIO for several significant family offices. And so I really like this intersection between capital and consciousness. That's an area that's particularly fascinating to me, but really I like to look at the energy of all things and how we can access them more deeply and in service to our lives. So thank you for having me.
I love it. And that's really it, right? Because a lot of people, when they hear the scrumptious woman, oh, do you need to be all like looking perfect? And I love the way that we're both wearing white and our hair is just down and it's not really done and there's not that much makeup on and whatever. No, we get to be scrumptious. We get to have that life force, that chi, that energy running through us, which becomes magnetic as fuck. And actually people are like, yeah, give us some more. So I love how you merge all of that while talking about some pretty intense things. And I've apprenticed for 2 years with a shaman, never understood the whole energy thing until I did. And it's, when does that land? So tell me a little bit. What came first? Or did it all come at the same time?
Yeah, no, the healing came first. I always like to give the definition of the word shaman because there's just so much controversy around the use of the word and cultural misappropriation. But I haven't quite found a better word. If somebody has one, send it to me. But the word shaman essentially means to take something that's unseen and make it seen, which is why it sticks. So it's the art of peeking behind the veils and calling forth, not just for yourself, but for the collective, calling forth from vision what is ready to be seen in this moment. So I think that's the power of what a shaman is, and in that we are all shamans in our own right. So my early kind of fascination in my 20s was primarily around this question of what does it mean to have a human lifetime? What are we doing here? What's it meant to be used for? And I became insanely obsessed with that question when I was a teenager. And inside of that really began what I would consider my spiritual search. But I was so young. At the time, I was pissed off about it because I was like, why can't I just be like a normal college kid? I was like, oh my gosh, spirituality is for like those weird, woo, old, white people. I don't want anything to do with it. Not me. And I was like so mad in the beginning. I was like, why did I have to be a spiritual person? Like I didn't want it. It just landed. But it was because I just found that question so irresistible. Like, what is the purpose of a human lifetime? And that question really led me down the path to understanding that the purpose of a human lifetime is to wake up. It's just to wake up. Like, it's amazing. Like, your success in this life is you just become conscious to that. That's the goal. That's the goal, is to wake up. And I got that at a young enough age.
Nice.
And at the time, I co-founded a school of healing arts in South America. It's called the Oasis Institute. It still exists today. And
where's that? Which country? I lived in South America. So.
In Argentina, in Buenos Aires.
I love it.
And it's in Palermo. And when I was around the year 2000, I decided I didn't want to live in Argentina forever. So I sold my part of the business to the other two co-founders and I moved back to the States, and I did a sabbatical at that time. In that sabbatical, I was really trying to figure out what was my next chapter. And I actually went on sabbatical to India and had a really profound awakening experience, which was an awakening experience of the divine feminine. I felt like Kali came to life inside of me. And for about 2 weeks, I felt absolutely possessed by the divine feminine. And at the time, I was like, this is great. I'm just going to live in India for the rest of my life, and goodbye, America. Like, it's all good. Like, I'm done with you. But as that experience began to integrate into my system, I saw the other side of it, which was that the feminine process of awakening is a very embodied process, and that I wasn't meant to live in a cave by myself. I was meant to actually come back and work in the West, but specifically to really learn to work with things like money, guidance. It was like, that's the feminine way of awakening, is like, how do you bring that awakening to the money, to the sex, to the body, to the marriage, to the relationships, to all of it.
Beautiful. And I remember I got to this a little bit later than high school, and then university or high school like you did. I had my 4 kids, and then afterwards I got into this in a bit more awakening. And I remember one of my first mentors said, if you can outrun it, do, but you can't, which is true, right? Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it anymore. Yeah, I love the little waves that sometimes it's more visible, and sometimes you're like, oh, let me just go back into the matrix. Let's just have everything normal, quote, normal. And you just can't do that anymore after a while. So I came back from that even more in-depth feminine awakening experience in India, and heard that money, okay, we've got to work with money, relationship, and power, which is, if you think about it, those are the most charged, emotionally charged, and energetically charged subjects that we can talk and teach about.
Yes. And it's funny, now that we're talking about it, you brought forth another memory from that trip that I think is beautiful to share, which is, at that time, like right before I'd gone to India, I had this sort of like super strict diet. Like, I was like crazy vegan, raw, because I wanted to eat clean. Mm-hmm. And I had taken it to such an extreme that I had actually stopped menstruating, which is super interesting. And I thought that's because I was so pure. I mean, like, danger zone. Like, I didn't know. I mean, it's because I didn't have enough body fat, but I was like, oh, I'm so pure. Yeah, whoopsie. And when I was in India, I was being fed this incredibly nourishing diet with a lot of ghee and buttermilk.
Ghee in it.
Yeah, all these things that feed the ojas and feed the essence, the yin inside of us. And part of that awakening also was that my period returned to me.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah, and it was a very kind of visionary moment that it came back to me. And when it came back, it really came back with that message that the feminine awakening is really sourced from the body and is of the body. The body's not separate from it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us live, and I was talking to someone in my mastermind yesterday. Was it yesterday? Today's Tuesday. Yes, yesterday. Where she said, oh, I can feel it here in my throat. I'm like, yes, you're a woman who's been in a very masculine career for so long. So this part is where you're going to start feeling it, your throat. Obviously, that's going to start opening a little bit. She said, yeah, but that's my compass. I can all of a sudden feel my body. And for her, what happened is that it got so bad that she had cancer twice or 3 times before she listened. And so often we hear that the moment that we listen to our body is only when it starts not whispering, but shouting.
Yeah, to protest. I always, when I talk to younger women in particular, I always talk about the numbness in the collective feminine body right now. And a lot of women are out there saying, oh, I feel a little bit numb and disassociated, especially when I'm being intimate with someone, and they think that they're broken. And I'm like, no, you're not broken. That's actually, your body is completely actually fixed. Your body is protesting, you riding your deepest truth. And so its best protest is to numb out.
Numb out, and we in society do that so well these days, especially with everything on our smartphones, right? I notice myself as well, but I notice the kids of today, they're just like on their phone all the time. and hardly interact with the people that they're around. They're all sitting on their phones. And of course, there's numbing out. Swipe left, swipe right. We get stimulated all the time. So when I bring in really slow touch, and then one of my methods is touch base, kinesthetic anchor, so they can start to feel safe again, then it's, oh my God, I've had so many of my clients and friends even text me and leave me messages saying, I never recognized I was so numb and I didn't feel, and I could actually feel safe again in sex. I could feel safe in my body. I didn't have to hurry up through. But yeah, that safety piece is really big, right? The numbing out, why do we do it? Because sensationful is not always pleasurable, right? Where it's that much sensations we're not used to. How do we deal with it? So we know.
I always like to remind people, if you're feeling numb out there in your body, the way back is to just begin telling the truth to yourself in small, simple ways. So it can even be as simple as, oh, I feel numb right now. A little disassociated. Let me just pause. Let me be present. And to not override it anymore. It's the overriding that keeps reinforcing it. And so instead, get into honoring it, giving it a place at the table, giving it a seat at the table. Okay, numbness, you can sit right here with me. I can just be with you.
What do you need, numbness?
Yeah.
And then the beauty is, like, through the somatic and through however you're doing it as well, is to really focus in on that numbness and then to notice, like, oh, we put attention on it. Can we feel the edges of it? Oh, is it static? Is it moving? Does it have a color? Give it all the attributes. And when I first do this with people, they're like, it's just numb. And then they're like, oh, now that you're actually asking me, I can start to feel what you're asking me, that there is some energy in there. I think just what you say,
it's beautiful.
Giving it a seat at the table.
That would be such a beautiful book. Someone should write that book. It would be called The Geography of Numbness, and it would be little short stories where each woman describes the geography of her numbness. It could be this collective love song into the numbness from the divine feminine, saying, we see you, we feel you, we've got our sights on you, and we're here. So that if you can witness something that deep in the collective unconscious, then it can heal. It can heal for the next generation to not have to feel numb.
And I think you've just pointed to it. We can heal that. It can stop with us so that the next generation doesn't have to feel this. This is why I'm so passionate about working with sexual trauma. And so that my daughters and the rest of their offspring, once they start having it, don't have to go through the same thing. And already they haven't had the same experiences that I've had, or my sister, or my mother, my grandparents. If I look back how long that went, I was like, whoa, I didn't actually recognize how many generations we're working on.
I didn't mean to work with sex because my path was always with money. And I have no training, and even I have no training background or any authority at all to speak about sex on anybody's podcast ever. And yet here we are. And it's just where consciousness itself took me. If you think about money, the feminine, where we struggle with money, is around questions of safety and security. So feminine looks at money and as being other than itself, and something that we don't have the birthright to really own or attain. Even can be sometimes seen as unfeminine to have your own wealth. And so all this conditioning, so that we have a very complex relationship to money that is primarily based on our fear of safety and security. And so a typical dynamic that you would see, for example, is a woman who's willing to trade her youth and her beauty for the financial security of an older man. That's very common. So
yeah, we've seen that one.
We've seen that one before. And then we can think in ourselves, like, where are the ways that we've compromised our truth for safety and security? And that will tell you something.
That's a big one. Right? That's really a big one. I want to just pause you there. Say that again, because I think if you actually feel that, it's like,
where have you sacrificed your truth for safety and security as the divine feminine? And that question will tell you a lot about how your relationship is to money. But then there's this secondary chord, which it took me some years to uncover. I didn't see it at first. And then all of a sudden I started to see the connection, is that we are also often using our sexuality for safety and security. That's very common. Also, we're brokering, we're transacting. I will give you this if you give me that. And so it's entrapped both money and sex into the same framework of having to serve our egoic needs for safety and security, as opposed to just being currencies that can run through us as the divine feminine channels that we are, which is always secure, which needs no safety or security added to it because it's inherently safe. So yeah,
I'm going to pause you there again. Because for some of the people that may be listening, they understand this in their minds. They might not actually understand it. Their bodies might recognize this, but their minds are still trying to catch up. And you're talking about safety and money, safety and sex. And what would you say to people that are having financial trouble and are finding it difficult to surrender to that divine feminine? What are the 3 things that they can do right now?
It's a complex question, which I've been asked many times. I often hesitate to answer because there are geopolitical forces at play, right? So not all women are born into an equal opportunity framework. No. There are just simple pressures. If we become mothers, just how much harder it can be for us to earn at the same pace as the masculine. Or there are certain professions that are considered more the domain of the feminine, for example, teaching or healing professions, which are not valued by society. And like how we pay CEOs 1,000 times more than we pay healers is a symptom of society that one individual female consciousness can't solve with her own abundant mindset. It's like,
that's true. That's completely true. But there's some little micro steps that we ourselves can take, right?
Yeah, it's just a more compassionate framework to start from. It's not all about your mindset, but in terms of what the individual can do, some of the things I think are really important is number one, most important is to change your relationship to work itself. And so investigate and eradicate all inherited belief systems that you have around what work is. Work is a sacred part of your birthright, and you should really love what you're doing for work. That's just a fact. Work is meant to be loved because it's meant to be your life purpose on this planet. But we are here to work. Don't get me wrong. We're not here for perpetual vacation. God bless you if that's what you want. I don't personally want to be on vacation forever and ever. I want to work.
It's so good what you're saying, because so often when we say, I've got to go back to work. And already saying that out loud, you're putting lack on, the energy of lack. This is not good.
Hatred.
Yeah. It's like, don't like this. Actually, for me, it's, oh my God, I get to show up and interview incredible people like you. And I get to help people and have better sex and have just better connection and talk better with each other and get all scrumpy and juicy and yummy together. And it does be about showing up in their life, about enjoying the sunshine. Yeah. So, it's...
Say that first, heal your relationship to work, because that is within you.
Heal your relationship to work. Absolutely.
And then the second piece is to heal your relationship to the frequency of more versus enough. This is epidemic, more versus enough. So really and you have to track this carefully inside yourself, are you running a constant narrative of I need more? And there's always more. And is more driving your decision-making day to day? Or have you actually begun to cultivate and curate the frequency of enough? So enough is, I am enough. I have enough. It is enough. That enoughness is available right here, right now. It doesn't need anything. It's right here. So those are some of the hacks.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not so much into creating a vision board, because I'm
no, I think, but these are 2 tangible steps, right? Where we can actually just take a moment, become aware of what's happening. Where in your body are you feeling enough? And especially, like you said, I'm enough, and whatever, if people want to use affirmations or actually feel them in their body, I always think, feel them instead of just say them. But also I notice when you get into that state, you don't want more things. Your life just is incredible. And that, of course, is how you start attracting more of that incredibleness.
Yeah. So the first kind of edict per se is love your work, is how to attract more. And then knowing you have enough is how to spend less. Like both, because both are important elements of.
It's not the rocket science, but
Right.
for some people, it's like, whoop, that's the more difficult one.
Yeah, abundance 101. Love your work, spend less.
Oh, I absolutely love this. So tell me, how do you work with people? How do people get a hold of you? Or do you do courses? Do you do work one-on-one? What happens?
So I don't actually make a living from being a shaman or facilitator. This is just my passion. So my work is in the family office world. And
Love it.
Really, if you want to learn more or just share in more community with me, you can just go to thesylvia.com, and I do have a newsletter. It's a free newsletter. And I'm publishing a book in June of next year under Deepak Chopra's imprint, and it's called Soul Naked: Initiations of Awakening. So next summer, I want it to be a hot summer read. I want everybody on the beaches in Europe to be reading Soul Naked.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that sounds incredible. How do you, so everything will be in the show notes for all our listeners listening, but I'd like to ask, so how do you bring this consciousness into your family offices and the financial stuff that you do with these people? I'm going to try and not name it too much. So
it's a great question. I'd say it's a work in progress. It's almost like a think tank of what is possible in a family office. I've had my hiccups and I've had my detours on this journey. It's not been a straight line for sure, but it's based on a vision of when you have a family office, that means that you have multi-generational capital, and that is all well and good. And there are really efficient, great systems for managing that capital and very low cost, simple systems for managing capital, right? What we're talking about is then once you have that established, you have that baseline of the strongly well-built family office, how do you then wake up each of those individual family members to their own life purpose? And then what is the collective family purpose behind that capital, so you can really begin to align the capital behind the mission statement of a family. So that the journey is not just about managing the capital, but also managing the spiritual capital. And so think about it, if a family office can become more conscious, it's the ultimate form of leverage in the entire universe, because to have conscious stewards is, to me, mission critical.
Oh my God. So
not up to me to tell you what your agenda is as a steward. It's just up to me to help you to wake up to what your agenda is as a steward.
Yeah. And isn't that beautiful, really? Waking up, and through them, they will wake up more people, and then governments will start to wake up, and then it just becomes a way of being, the stewardship of money, right?
Yeah, the stewardship of resources. All resources.
Beautifully put. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, more conscious stewardship is what's being asked for in this time.
Yeah, I really love that. Oh my God, this has gone like everything. I've absolutely adored this. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.